And here we go. So here we go. So again, it's another impromptu sort of streaming. So if you are available, then watch it. Thank you. But if you're not available, then hopefully you do get to watch it later. We seem now to be picking up items somewhat on Rice TV to have to react to. So this again another reaction to a session on Rice TV. So let me not labor it too much. Let me just bring you what we're talking about. So it wraps around the goings on now of the trajectory of the Nigerian state to hand over power from one civilian administration who has completed its constitutionally allowed quota of term to another administration who has won an election to take over the baton of state. So that's the preamble to this. So let me now bring you this and let's get straight to it. So I'm just going to flip over to Arise TV and let them pick it up. And then, as ever, we'll have interjections in the course of their narration. But here is Ruben Abati opening up affairs.
These newspapers from around the world. This Arise News analyst, Emmanuel Efeni, the great Malabite action.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
You know what came to my mind when I saw you? You are the great Odidigbo.
That's somebody title, please. Rufai, the man who wants to open the womb of time today. We start the review with this day Nigeria newspaper of record. The lead story: Buhari hands over transition documents to Tinubu, bestowed on him GCFR, Shettima GCON. Says he ran good race, finished his course as president. Charges president-elect, incoming VP to lead with wisdom, courage, compassion. Reiterates former Lagos governor has experience, capacity to lead country. Tinubu to Buhari, wherever you are, be it Daura or Niger Republic, expect knocks on your doors. Says he's aware of the enormous responsibility ahead of him. Yes, the transition in full gear. Yesterday, the transition documents handed over to President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course, being charged about the enormity of the work ahead of him when he assumes office on Monday, May 29. Of course, you should know better. We've all been in this country. His party, the APC, has been in power for 8 years. He knows the shortcomings where the outgoing government has not done well, and they are very glaring for him to deal with.
Oh, okay, let me just pause there for a moment. So at first they acknowledge a moment in time because of course they cannot not acknowledge that moment in time. So what has happened is that yesterday, and I think we streamed it. I know we streamed it on this platform. So what happened is yesterday, the Buhari administration conferred on Bola Tinubu the highest honor in the land, GCFR, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic. So I think correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think that that honor is usually conferred wholly, if not exclusively, to people who have governed or who are governing the Nigerian state. So that's the highest honor that the country has. So that is part of the ceremonial build-up to the handover, of course, that comes in 3 days' time. So as a news platform, there's an inevitability to the fact that they must cover this because they cannot pretend as though it is not happening. It is happening, and it has to be documented on their platform if they want to continue to purport to be a news platform. So they go on to document that. But as you know, because we all know Arise TV, then they will now proceed to go on and try and rubbish and diminish it. So here it is now, what I suspect is going to be the rubbishing and diminishing of the conferment of the highest honor in the land on Tinubu.
And we just hope Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, will hit the ground running. No excuse, because he's been part of the party that has been in power for the last 8 years. We expect him to know where to plug the loopholes, where to pull the plugs, and ensure that the engine of state works very well for the good of the greater number of Nigerians. Now, also reporting that story, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, I will not disappoint Nigerians. Tinubu, Buhari confessed GCFR, GCON on him. Shettima, yes. And, of course, above the masthead, what we will remember Buhari for, Nigerians speak. And they started highlighting the following: lazy youths. Yes, it was.
Oh, okay, and thus it begins, just as I predicted, because of course, the failings of the Buhari administration has been well enumerated and documented all throughout the 8 years of its tenure, because that 8 years now completes. So the failings of the Buhari administration has been documented all throughout that the failure of its tenure. So now this conferment of the highest honor in the land on Tinubu, and also a conferment of a high honor on Kashim Shettima. So these are moments in time that are celebratory moments that can stand alone. So they could have just done this as a stand-alone narrative to acknowledge that moment in time. And then in the course of that celebration also, they introduced an innovation where they got a Nigerian baton, which they had painted in Nigerian colors, green, white, green, with a peak of gold, and had Buhari then, you can see it in the picture on your screen, by the way, and then had Buhari hand over that baton onto Tinubu, which is an innovation that they've introduced to the ceremony of the handing over of one administration to another. So that's an innovation, which are moments needed to be spent just to discuss and acknowledge. So it is a celebratory moment. But then, of course, they are, because this is what we know Arise TV for, by the way, but they are looking to douse that celebration, but regurgitating and vomiting again, yet again, the Fulani headsman narrative, which we have discussed ad infinitum, the failings of the Buhari administration, which we have discussed endlessly, the Fulanization, Islamization, which we have discussed till we've run out of our breath. So they want to regurgitate all of that to try and dampen and diminish then this moment in time. And that, of course, is what we know Arise TV for. Let's listen on.
President Wu made that statement somewhere outside the country. Longest ASU strike in Nigerian history. Twitter ban. Naira to buy Naira. Railway, of course, there were improvements in the railway system. Some friends of mine happily travel to Ibadan these days by train with their family, something they never thought of many years ago.
See how begrudging that acknowledgement was. Because, of course, they cannot say that this guy did not achieve anything. He just commissioned the second Niger Bridge, then the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. He only needs a patch to be fixed, to be completed next month. This rail service now that his paddy man takes to Ibadan every day, so he cannot, in all consciousness, even though there are very laws antagonist on Arise TV, he cannot, in all consciousness, being whatever it is that he is. Not Buhari, Rufai can do that, of course. He would never acknowledge anything. But this guy, being somewhat of a senior man with a better brain, he cannot say it is all categorical rubbish when he, through his lived experience or the lived experience of his friends via osmosis, tells him that there has been marked improvements that has positively impacted on the lives of Nigerians. He tells us that his friends happily, and I'll scroll it back if you want me to, but I don't want to scroll it back. You can scroll it back at your discretion. He told us that his friends happily take the Lagos to Ibadan rail service as a matter of routine. They have now, something that he said they never thought they would see in their lifetime, but they have now grown accustomed to the ease of that service that they have now started to take it for granted. So this is an achievement, of course. This is a quantum leap, by the way. The Lagos-Ibadan rail service, of course, a Goodluck Jonathan initiative, but the beginning and end of it are all within the Buhari administration. The Dangote refinery, a Goodluck Jonathan walked through, but the beginnings and endings of it are very much within the Buhari administration. So they cannot, especially somebody of this criminal functioning, a senior boy like this chap on your screen. We are not talking about Rufai Hussaini, of course, who belongs in the woods. A senior boy of this guy's level of criminal functioning cannot, in all consciousness, say that all of the Buhari administration was rubbish when, through his own lived experience, his day-to-day experience tells him that the Buhari administration has positively, in some instances, in some sectors of society, in some sectors of the functionings of the country, positively impacted on the country. And he cited then the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway as an example, the Lagos-Ibadan rail service, and indeed the expressway as well, as examples of that. Let's listen on.
And as border closure were the highlights. Border closure that brought pain with.
And very quickly, he reverts back to where they went.
Banditry, which is still raging in Zamfara, in many parts of the country. Second Niger Bridge, of course, just commissioned. And that, of course, to the credit of President Muhammadu Buhari. So the good, the bad, and the not so ugly are also part of the Buhari legacy, according to the Nigerian Tribune, speaking to Nigerians. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, I know extent of task ahead won't fail Nigerians. Tinubu, of course, below the photograph, the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, rate of killings worrisome. Southern Middle Belt leaders. Yes.
So again, and probably for the last time, I'm highlighting the yin and yang that is the system of this platform, Arise TV. So I will, I know the extent of the tasks ahead. I will not fail Nigerians. This is the promise that this is the promise that Tinubu made personally to Buhari, because he looked in the direction of Buhari when he uttered those words. So this is the promise that Tinubu made directly to Buhari, and by extension, the assurance that he gives to Nigerians. So that the wholesomeness of that is a positive. So he has promised us not to fail us. So now we can then hold him then in the course of his probably 8 years tenure to those words, because those words were captured audio visually. So we can hold him to that. But then, of course, Arise TV being Arise TV, they had to cut through that positivity with the killings in the Middle Belt, which in itself is a worry and something that should be a headline itself. But the form of this platform, Arise TV, is to whatever the positive news from the government spaces, to look to douse it with a series of negativity to water it down. And that is the format that we know them for. You know this. You don't need me to tell you this. You know this.
This is also bloodstains on the paths. As President Muhammadu Buhari leaves office, people are still dying. In the last couple of weeks, over 130 people killed in Plateau State alone. And
Benue too.
yes, of course,
Benue too.
Benue.
On the 22nd.
Yes. So these are things Nigerians will also remember the president for. The Daily Independent newspaper, around a good race, have finished my course. Buhari confers highest national honor on Tinubu. Shettima, president-elect, vows not to disappoint Nigerians. Buhari, yes. I think this has become a familiar phrase now. I ran a good race. Finished my course. Buhari, somebody who has some pastoral touch, making input into that speech, because that clearly the statement made by the Apostle Paul when he finished his course, one of the erudite apostles in the Holy Scriptures. I ran a good race. I finished my course. Yes, President Buhari can say that. And of course, the womb of history will be open in the fullness of time. Though the likes of Rufai Oseni wants to open that book right now. Now, the Business Day newspaper.
All right. So I just want to acknowledge that that statement by that gentleman. I don't know his name, actually. I have to remember his name. What he said was the wombs of history will be opened in the fullness of time. And what he meant is that in the height of the inferno of an administration is not when the judgment should be made. It is that moment of calm when the fires of that administration has been doused, and then there's been the passage of time for people to condense their thoughts. Then you go back to that administration then to audit with a clear mind then what they have done good and what they have done bad. So that is what he said. The wombs of history will be opened in the fullness of time. But then he went on to that caveat that the likes of Rufai Oseni wants to open it now. So even within their structure, they acknowledge this this rather big-headed fella as a hothead. So I just wanted to acknowledge that you heard it. So I'm not going to scroll back. You scroll back and hear him say those words. But we listen on.
Debt outstreets education.
Apologies. I seem to have dropped it somewhat. Let me bring it back up. Let me bring it back up. Don't stay there. Let me bring it back up.
And health. Official data compiled by Business Day shows that Nigerian debt burden per citizen has grown astronomically. Yes, these are part of the Buhari legacy. The good, the bad, and the not so ugly are part of the mix. The Guardian newspaper, yes, 8 years after, vanity of rich talents. As football declines, team sports wobble without laurels. Of course, looking at sports performance.
All right, I'm going to try and skim through the sports bit because we're not essentially
reign of under the watch of President Muhammadu Buhari, Toby Amosan, Amushan. Of course, she set a world record. You cannot take that away. But of course, when it comes to football, the number one sport in the country, Nigerians have had a lot of heartache, headache. Yes, and do you blame that on the president or those who decide to sack a coach who qualified Nigeria for tournaments with a couple of matches to spare and bring in a Nigerian coach and expect us to do well? Well, is the president. The buck stops at the table. He will take the plaudits. He will take the criticisms, the burden and the benefits of being in office as president of Nigeria for the past 8 years. Now, the foreign newspapers, quickly, the Guardian newspaper revealed Braverman planned to deport 3,000 asylum seekers each month. Of course, the government is preparing to kick out.
All right, I was going to really abandon this story, but this story seemed to be it seems to be agitating the Nigerian space, especially off the back of commentaries by some character called MD, who did a social media post that Nigerians are using the UK Masters program as a JAPA conduit, which seems to then agitate Nigerians. That was actually what led to that spat between Abike Dabiri Arewa and the Arise TV girls. So that was what led to that spat. So the UK now, because the UK system has what they call a net migration sort of a system. So they try and document how many people are leaving the country and how many people are coming into the country, to then see then if the population is increasing or decreasing via migration. So if there is a net increase in migration, then they look to control that through policy. And this is now what this is seeking to speak to. So usually I would abandon all these stories because I try to leave the focus on the Nigerian space, but let's just listen to this because it's a story that seems to be agitating the Nigerian space at the moment. So let's just listen to see what we glean from this.
Out thousands, most of whom will be found to be refugees. And of course, Rishi Sunak has come under the fire with the rising number of immigrants, illegal immigrants in the UK. Something Braverman in a bill which she's putting forward seeks to deal with by deporting as many as 3,000 asylum seekers every month. Now, the Washington Post newspaper, Trump.
And by the way, just to pause on that storyline for a moment and add on to it what was not in the reportage. In terms of the UK migration thing, when you come and study, there's a loophole that allows you to bring your family members with you, just so that they don't break up the family. And really, they really do it for the income and everything, because of course you're not coming to depend on the state. You are bringing in funds from your country to support yourself, which comes into the British coffers. But that family appendage to somebody coming to study, I think that's been removed. I think that's been removed at the senior certification level, because of course, if you are coming to secondary school, etc., I don't think they are looking to cut that off just yet, because at the secondary school, what purports to be secondary school by our understanding, at that level, they facilitate for a parent coming to act as guardian for that pupil as it goes to school. So they facilitate for that. But if you are coming to do like a degree program, a post-degree program, etc., I think they are now looking to block that off as a conduit for migration. So you cannot, as Mrs. XYZ, Mr. XYZ, come to say you are studying. And I know a lot of people that have actually, even in recent weeks, done that route. But they are looking to block that off. So you cannot then get your thing to come and do your master's, and then with that you bring a family of 5 and you're all then on the British state. So they're looking to block that off. That is where that storyline is. But if you have more information on that, they'll pop it in the comment section. But no, the UK are now looking to reduce net migration to the point of even now looking to deport some people. So we listen on.
Workers move boxes a day before FBI visit. 2 of Donald Trump's employees appear closer to deal on debts. Of course, 2-year plan. Democrats, they will all
across.
Sorry, I've had to skim through the American storyline because, of course, we are not Americans. So the Americans, they can deal with their own affairs.
I mean,
with the threat of government shutdown, but just on the nick of time, they always strike a deal, and something in the works already.
I think it's always
the Republicans and the Democrats, they will always argue about this debt ceiling.
I mean,
with the threat of government shutdown, but just on the nick of time, they always strike a deal, and something in the works already.
I think it's always a game of political tennis for them, you know, ping pong across board. Definitely, they were going to, but it also tested the bipartisan appeal of President Joe Biden, which has always started himself as a bipartisan champion, owing to the fact that one of the youngest people when he got to the House of Senate back in the days, I think it was just 29 in the 70s, and he made public story. But after he now lost his wife and everything happened, so finally they were able to raise the debt ceiling into 30 trillion. It just shows that the debt in America keeps mounting. I remember many years ago when the bone of contention was raising the debt ceiling too.
Apologies, and I'm not picking on this guy, but this know-it-all thing that Buhari, not Buhari, I don't know, that's always a Freudian. This know-it-all that Rufai Hussaini always does on everything, it grates on my nerves. I have to admit it. I'm not sure if I'm now starting to have a personal issue with the guy, but this everything he has an opinion on, which you will say is his job, but this know-it-all thing that he does, it grates on my nerves.
20 trillion. Now it's 21 trillion. For an economy that, when you look at the size of the economy of America, it's about 20 trillion. It speaks volumes about the American system of debt. But you see, the question is, do they have a leverage? You see, this is the difference between America and Iran. Yes, they have a leverage, because in governmental revenue, government makes, you know, sizable amounts in taxes and all of that. I think close to 5 trillion or thereabout year on year with all of that, with other forms of, you know, revenue. So they have a revenue to hedge it. In our own case, we don't have revenue. That's the problem. That's why you see debt to service ratio is on the increase. You know, the ratio at which we are servicing our debt, revenue to debt service ratio is on the increase. The revenue at which we use to service that. So enough of the problem we have. 5 trillion.
It's a unique skill that Rufai Hussaini has, that he has that capacity to bring every storyline to Buhari bashing. So the storyline was an international story speaking to the American space, and he just glazed over that American sport, then to land it on Buhari again and run him down. So, well, in 3 days' time, of course, Tinubu will be sworn in. There's nothing he can do about that, but there he is. This is a man now locked in a loop. It will continue to. I don't know. I don't know if you know what a ferret is. They have this animal, or so they have this animal that they call a ferret, and what they usually do is it's a pet. They keep it in a pet, then they put it in some sort of a wheel here in the UK. And what that ferret does is it runs in that cage, but that cage is circular. So as it runs in that cage continues to encircle, and it doesn't really move anywhere. So it spirals and spirals, but he just continues to loop around in that circular cage. So this is essentially how I often see this guy. So like a ferret in a loop, a ferret in a loop.
5 trillion in tax remittances alone. And you know, the economy is viable, it's working and all of that. But I want to come back to a story that I saw that scared me. And you see, these are just one of the indications of the kind of government President Muhammadu Buhari ran in the last 8 years. The interview with the education minister, I think he should never have come out to say that he knew nothing about.
And by the way, just to pause it there for a moment and signpost you to 9:45 UK time tonight. So we're doing a session, and this is going to be one of the topics that we're going to be covering, because we picked up on that story too. The education minister, the Northern Fulani guy that Buhari appointed to be the education minister, he has come out in an interview to say that when he was appointed, he knew absolutely nothing about education. And this is the, especially on this platform, this is the one thing that we have always spoken about the Buhari administration, that he narrows the pool of talent that he picks from, because he's only interested in picking from his own clansmen. So he narrows then the pool that Nigeria offers in terms of talent, and he only wants to pick from his own kind. But then amongst his own kind, you don't really have that depth of talent. You have quite a few breakouts of people of super intelligence, like Lamido Sanusi, the former emir of Kano State, El Rufai, people like that. You have people like that, but really, as a mass, they have very slim pickings in terms of people of good education and good cranial functioning. So when he's then only insisting on picking from his own kind, then you end up with elements like Adamu, who by his own admission had no concept of what the education sector is, and then you superimpose him on a portfolio that he has no understanding of. And then, of course, we saw how the education system in Nigeria spiraled down the abyss for 8 solid years.
About education when he was given the appointment. Is it a joke we are running here? But these are just one of the indications of the kind of government President Muhammadu Buhari ran in the last 8 years. The interview with the education minister, I think he should never have come out to say that he knew nothing about education when he was given the appointment. Is it a joke we are running here?
But he wasn't the only one who said that.
But it is
when Aregbesola was made Minister of Internal Affairs, he said, I don't know anything about Internal Affairs Ministry.
See, but the truth has to be said. Aregbesola can say he doesn't know anything about Internal Affairs Ministry. Education, a very important and pertinent ministry. We should not have people that would do trial by error in education. And it was indicative. Look at our education prospects in the last 8 years. Riddled by ASU strikes here and there, riddled by all sorts of very, very... I now forgive Adamu because obviously he doesn't know anything about it. That's why he was saying all the things he was saying during the ASU strike. if we have a country that wants to develop, should we have people that, even if you don't know anything, can't you go and get oversight information?
I was discussing with Professor before she came on set about who to appoint, get a professor. He said, look, it's not just you don't just appoint any professor as Minister of Education. That person has to be somebody who has the grasp of the education, who has not just any professor you appoint. And
she made that point yesterday.
Yeah,
truly. But Minister Adamu has in fact done much better than other persons who have occupied that position of Minister of Education. For a fact, we can say that it was under his watch that JAMB, the Joint Admissions Matriculation Board, which used to be a center for all kinds of shenanigans, became a profit-generating, revenue contributing, revenue generating agency under Professor Ishaq Oloyede, who works closely with Minister Adamu. And it was also under the same Minister Adamu that we have a National Universities Commission that has paid more attention to standards, quota, and all of that within the system. So if we're doing, an assessment, a holistic, fair, perhaps subjective assessment of the Buhari.
Right. I am loath, L-O-A-T-H, I am loath to have to do this. But I somewhat agree with the out of proportion. No, let me not be saying that. I somewhat agree with Rufai Oseni on that. You cannot attribute to Adamu the achievements of satellite agencies within the greater education portfolio. So all of these achievements that Reuben Abate is trying to enumerate and attribute to Adamu, they were not because of Adamu, they were in spite of him, which is the point that Rufai Oseni was making. So I promise never to do it again, but I somewhat agree with Rufai Oseni on that.
Buhari administration has been done beyond the crisis with labor, with salaries,
yes,
with ASU strike. You see that in terms of policies, in some other regards, you know, the Ministry of Education can point to certain things. That's that
but
about
to be fair
that.
to Adamu, he said he got experts.
No,
To work with him,
yeah,
to come up with policies.
Fine.
It wasn't as if he remained.
No. When you are made a minister,
yes,
you know, you are put in a policy position. It doesn't mean that you know it all. You know, the state provides the opportunity for you to recruit the best hands to do the job. However, the biggest problem that we have with regard to the appointment of ministers or persons into positions is that people are just appointed for political reasons.
All right. I think Ruben Abati is missing the wider point. So everything that he has said now, it still applies to somebody that has an understanding of the portfolio. So now, what Ruben Abati and the other anchorman, not Rufai Oseni, the other presenter, what they are saying is that even though Adamu may not have any knowledge of the education sector, he has smartly recruited experts in the education sector to help him guide policy positioning, which then to look to improve the education sector. So I think that's a misnomer. I think that's a misdirection in an argument. Because what they have said that Adamu did is also available and also the same route that somebody that has an understanding of the education sector would have followed anyway. So if somebody that has an understanding of the education sector goes on then to recruit experts in specialist areas of the education sector to help him or her craft a policy position, that then will further enhance because they are coming to him in a place of knowing, and then he can add his own knowing to their expertise to propel that space. But they are coming to Adamu from a place of ignorance, so he's just going to defer to expert opinion without being able to interrogate it from a place of knowing. So that is really where the argument is. But that is really where the argument is. But I think that went over the head of Abati and the other guy.
And that's why some persons have been arguing, ministers are appointed, and they go to the Senate for, you know, appearance and screening. The portfolio should be attached to the appointment. If you say, Mr. X, we're going to make you minister, you tell him, okay, we're going to make you minister of internal affairs, even if he's the dumbest man on earth.
So, sorry to keep on pausing it so frequently, but what Abati said there is a point, and it's a point that really needs to be addressed immediately within the Nigerian space. When they are sending ministers' potential to screening at the Senate, they must, as a matter of constitution, and this must be embedded in the constitution, they must attach a portfolio to that minister. Because what they do at the moment is they get a whole bunch of people who they have decided that they are going to make ministers. They then send them to the Senate for approval. And then once the Senate approves them that they are fit, I don't know how they do it or how somebody can approve. Anyway, let me not do that. Once the Senate approves them that they are fit and purposeful to be ministers, they then go back to the executive space where portfolios are then allocated to them. So that's the wrong way around. So you have to attach a so then you can have somebody that is that studied Greek science and tell us that he's the Minister of Justice because it's already been approved by the Senate. There's nothing you can do about it. So portfolios has to be attached to a minister so that the Senate then can then mark their they can then match rather their body of work, their CV, to their portfolio to see if it rhymes. So to see if there is a synergy between their work history, their antecedents, and the portfolio being attached. So that has to be embedded in the constitution. You cannot just send a whole bunch of people to the Senate to be approved as ministers and then have them come back to the executives then, and then you start to apportion portfolios to them in terms of how much they are able to bribe influence to get whatever juicy portfolios. And Adamu being a prime example of that.
At least let him go and read up and seek advice before he gets into that office. Look, some ministers get into the office, they don't know what it is all about. They have no knowledge of civics. The only relevance is that they organize some area talks to deliver votes, and then at the end of the day, they get this position. They spend 6 months.
Why don't you just say they deliver votes?
They don't know.
They don't have to organize talks to deliver votes. They may just be popular in their locality.
Okay, but you know how it works. They don't know anything about procurement processes. Most of them will get there for 6-7 months. They know nothing about procurement. When they come to council 1 year later, they will tell you their budget performance is, well, they don't know. I mean, I was trying to study the environment. That's part of the tragedy of Nigeria. We put wrong pegs in wrong holes. So that's that about
Is that really peculiar to Nigeria, Robert?
It's peculiar to Nigeria. You look at Japan now. Look at the cabinet in Japan. Look at the cabinet in China. These are properly educated.
Let me also draw your attention.
Not somebody just jumping with no education.
The first Secretary of State under Donald Trump. Where was he brought from? He was the head of Mobile. And was brought to become.
You are comparing apples and oranges.
No.
You are comparing.
No, we know how that Secretary of State ended when he was sacked while on the official trip to Africa. Ruben.
No, funny.
It's not peculiar.
No, but Rex Tillerson had international exposure.
This is what
head of president of Mobile.
And suddenly, foreign affairs in charge of foreign affairs. Does that make you?
You don't know that a multinational.
Maybe this guy should just keep quiet because Ruben was exactly right that he's comparing apples with oranges. If you make somebody that's the head of Mobile as the, whatever I say, Secretary of State, that still fits with the portfolio because he has administrative at the highest possible level experience, international exposure, interacting with a multiplicity of ethnicity, and then functioning at the highest level of business. So all of that are transmute. They talk about transferable skills. Those are transferable skills, and they are not even transferable skills. There are skills that are pertinent to the position. So the example being cited by the man in the light brown suit maybe the wrong one.
A multinational company.
You know how it ended with misspeak, and eventually was sacked while he was on the trip in Africa.
A multinational corporation is an important part of international relations and international diplomacy.
No, Rex, what it is.
However, I wanted to talk about Braverman.
Yes.
Yeah, you refer to the
Suella Braverman.
Yes, she used to be Attorney General. She's now Home Secretary. You refer to the illegal migration bill that is going through Parliament at the moment. And she's already saying, 3,000 asylum seekers will be out. And that has been a major issue. And there are MPs, members of Parliament, who are accusing the Conservatives, the Tories, of incompetence, complete incompetence in terms of how they have handled immigration. But the truth of the matter is that even when they quote the figures, that in 2022, we had an increase up to 606,000, and that the prospect is that will hit 700,000 this year. And the Nigerians, your brothers, the Japa people of Nigeria, you know, that they account for about close to 68,000 in 1 year alone, bringing dependence into the United Kingdom. They fail to overlook the fact that there is a labor shortage crisis, not just in the UK, but also.
So sorry, I was speaking. I didn't realize I'd muted myself. Yes, there is a labor shortage crisis in the UK, and that labor shortage crisis in the UK is largely because of the Brexit space. So as you all know, the United Kingdom has exited the European Union to be a standalone country by itself, and with that, then. That easy movement of the mass of the European Union as a labor force to come in and out of the United Kingdom to work unfettered as though they were domestic citizens. So that's been removed. So with that removal now, there's been a sharp drop in labor in the United Kingdom. And what the United Kingdom was then looking to do was to insulate that space with the Commonwealth. And with the Commonwealth, of course, Nigeria being the bulk of that. So that is why you are seeing now this mass movement of Nigerians into the UK. But then, of course, they're looking to cut that back. So I think that is where Ruben Abati is speaking to.
Also across Europe. And the UK, where people don't want to do certain works. They don't want to be haulage lorry drivers. They don't want to be butchers. They don't want to be, they don't want to do certain kinds of job. They prefer to live on the door. Okay? So earlier on, we discussed this matter with Mr. Wilson. He was saying, yes, immigration is chaotic. It's a crisis and all that. Okay, but if people don't want to do basic jobs, they want to live on...
Well, some ministers are saying they will teach them how to drive.
They want to live on benefits.
They will teach them how to drive lorries.
Nigerian nurses want to go to the UK. They want to work.
They need them.
Nigerian butchers, if they are given a chance, they want to come to the UK. We have been talking about students. In fact, motopark touts in Lagos, if you give them visa, they will relocate to the UK. And that's why there is another report saying, that's a report by Phyllis Consulting, indicating that the rate of the percentage point of Nigerians who are leaving the country is about 52%. And these are persons in the professions, in tech.
Oh, professionals.
In tech, yes. In medical. So Nigeria.
This is a real worry for the Nigerian state, that statistic that Ruben just brought forward. And we're taking it on its own gospel, of course. We've not checked to verify. But if 52% percentile of our people, of our achievements and work and experience are living the Nigerian state, and I know it from my own personal anecdotes, members of my family, as I'm sure a lot of you do, members of your family. Look at the hemorrhage. If you go to any hospital in the United Kingdom, the chances is 1 in 3. If the doctor that is going to attend to you is a Nigerian, the chances is 4 in 5 if the nurse that is going to take care of you is a Nigerian. So there's just, if you just look at that as a statistic, just in this country alone, and I suspect that repeats in America as well. If you, and a lot of those nurses, by the way, they are new generation migrants that have just come in via that portal of insulating the shortfall in the health system. So if you look at that, all these doctors and nurses that have come out of Nigeria to come and find a better life in the United Kingdom, so that to the advantage of the United Kingdom, marginally to the advantage of the United Kingdom, but significantly to the disadvantage of the Nigerian state, who have a shortfall anyway. Even if all of them are stayed, there's still almost like a 300% shortfall, because the totality of the doctors that we have in Nigeria that we've ever that are currently doctors, I should say, I'm not sure they're up to 75,000. If you look at the population of 200 and something million people, so there's a significant shortfall anyway. But within even that shortfall, there's the hemorrhaging of a lot of professional people, engineers, doctors, accountants, everybody that has a profession that can be internationalized has left the Nigerian shores. And Abati now telling us that this is a 52% percentile.
Nigeria faces a crisis. If we were to go by that report by Phyllis Consulting, which was, I think, was presented yesterday. So you find a situation whereby Nigeria is now at a point that Ireland find itself at the turn of the 19th century. So when you talk about Irish Americans and all of that, many of them left because the condition at the turn of the 19th century in Ireland was not conducive enough. So they all went.
There was hardship.
They all went to America. So today now everybody is coming home. I'm a descendant of Irish Americans and all of that. That is what is going to happen to Nigeria. Most of our talented people, they will leave because we have not provided an enabling environment.
Ruben,
and one of the challenges.
You are not leaving, Ruben.
No, I'm not going anywhere. We are here together.
Here.
If I get a chance tomorrow, I will run this country. I can't do it. I mean, you know,
we are here.
Breaking news. Ruben Abati, interest for in
and there it is right there. So there it is right there. It's spilled out finally. The level of ego of this Ekiti man, or whatever, I think it's an Ondo man, his level of ego has now spiraled into that's a leak right there. So this guy in his own head, that and we heard it somewhat in his commentaries. This guy in his own head actually thinks he's capacitated to run the Nigerian state, and he still has ambitions in that direction. So there he is, the bald man from Arise TV. He wants to be president.
Yes, you can run it. Yes,
so we're going nowhere. We're going nowhere.
We can run this country.
This is a challenge. So there are some of us who will stay here.
Yes,
right?
run this country.
But the challenge is that there are more people who are living. 52%. That's about half of the talent pool of Nigeria. Talent pool
that is,
of Nigeria.
It's alarming. It's alarming.
Please, Mr. Fini.
No, we hope the next government,
Mr.
May 29, will set things
Can I even ask you a question?
Yes.
Those that are even running, do they have half of Dr. Abati's cerebral acuity as we speak today? Challenge me on that.
No.
Fact check me. Those that are running it, do they have half of Dr. Abati?
No, I don't want to compete with my fathers.
Dr. Abati.
No. If we're going to say cerebral acuity, which is to say the brain power, I say those that are running Nigeria, do they have the cerebral acuity of Ruben Abati, to say the brain power? I will say that they have the expanse, because it's not the brain that runs the country, it's the balance. So, and that is where people always miss it. It's not the cleverest person that should run a country or that can run a country. It's the balance. It's the balance. It's somebody that is able functionally to function at a competent level to all of the sectors, all of the composing sectors of governance, inter-ethnicity management, economy management, security, well-being, education, agriculture, all of that wrapped into instincts, that allows that person to manage as best all of those resources to a cohesive manner. So it's not cerebral acuity as the Orisa thing that Rufai Hussein is trying to do. No, and even if we are talking about cerebral acuity, I think what Rufai Hussein is conflating is the level of Abati's education with intelligence. So, and a lot of people actually do that. They conflate education with intelligence. So, education is a documentation of a level of capacity of higher functioning, but it's not a measure of intelligence. It's a measure of competence. Intelligence is an instinctual thing. Is a capacity. Let me give you an example of somebody that is highly intelligent. If you let's go to the sporting world. If you look at somebody like Lionel Messi, that guy has a genius level intelligence. So here he is, surrounded by 4-5 people trying to stand in his way, and he threw split-second cranial functioning, cranial acuity, as Little Rufai has just called it. He through just split-second cranial acuity is able to outmaneuver all of those people to get a golden end result. So that's a genius brain. So people conflate education with intelligence, and maybe we would actually do a session on that one of these days, because I often see that conflation. But then, of course, that is just a Little Rufai doing Orisa to his big daddy.
When it is my time.
What primary school?
Ruben, you are still talking about when it is your time.
Dr. Abati, what primary school did you go to?
No.
I know your primary school. I know your secondary school.
No, I did NYS.
You did NYS. And I know your university. I know all your degrees.
Stop the Wawules. We want to go eat jollof rice.
Somebody I know in primary school, I was like, I would rather support him.
Ruben, it's okay, Rufai. Everybody, you have the right to edit your biography to suit your purpose. I don't think that's a crime.
Okay.
Okay. But you don't have the right to tell lies. But you people should stop this, please. We are waiting for Monday. And Nigeria must move on. We'll focus on the issues of development of the economy and how all of us can work together. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efene.
And there it is right there. It could not have been better summed up. So we're waiting for Monday, and then the country must move on. And I'm going to actually listen to it again because it's well worth noting. So listen to these words from Ruben Abati. So this is a full stop and enough is enough from the empty-headed noise from the usual quarter. So this is where we are now.
You people should stop this, please. We are waiting for Monday. And Nigeria must move on. We'll focus on the issues of development of the economy and how all of us can work together.
Right. So we're waiting for Monday. The country must move on. We're going to be focusing on issues of development and how all of us can work together. So that's the full stop to that space. But the full stop to that space actually comes in the 9:45 session that we're having. So I've already put the notice out. So please go on the platform and bookmark your space for the 9:45 session, which we'll be having later on today, when we'll be discussing then the verdict of the Supreme Court on the Shettima double nomination, which they have now just dismissed out of hand as a nonsense. So that is now another mortal blow to the petition of Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar. So even before the tribunal, and anyway, come later, because I don't want to do the coming session in this session, but come to the later session at 9:45 UK time. So go and bookmark it now. Put the notification on so you are there and ready. So in that session, we'll be discussing then the Supreme Court verdict that the double nomination of Kashim Shettima is a bit of a nonsense, and they've dismissed it out of hand. So what does this mean for the petitions that are in place challenging the victory of Tinubu Shettima? So we'll be discussing all of that. So bookmark that, because the way it's going, all of the elements of the of the petition, all of the elements of the petition being put forward by Peter Obi and Kashim Shettima, all of the elements of it are already being adjudicated in satellite cases. We already saw the verdict in the Supreme Court verdict, by the way, and when the Supreme Court gives a judgment in Nigeria, of course, that is the end of the matter. There's no higher recourse outside of the Supreme Court. So all of the satellite cases running against the APC Shettima Tinubu combo, all of the satellite cases they're already all of the pleas running against their victory are already been decided in all of these satellite cases. So the Beavers narrative has already been decided in the Adeleke versus Oyetola case. So the appeal court now cannot overturn a verdict given by the Supreme Court. So they'll just defer to that. So the Shettima double nomination, that's been decided today. That is one of the cardinal pleas of the petition. So that's been decided by the Supreme Court today. So the Presidential Petition Tribunal, which is at the appeal court level, they cannot then adjudicate something that has already been judged by the Supreme Court. So they'll defer to that judgment. So all of the cardinal points of the petitions against the Tinubu Shettima victory are already being decided in all of these pockets of satellite cases that has been instituted against their victory, so that by the time the tribunal sits, they will only sit to dismiss the petitions. So the only thing left is the 25% in Abuja, and that is a matter of language and easily dismissed. So all of that up for discussion, 9:45 p.m. UK time. So be there or be squared. So join us later. I'll leave you here. Carry the conversation on with you in the comment section. But here, I say, peace.